In the early 90s, I was going through one of those really bad breakups. I like to describe it as licking the floor with pain. I was having problems getting through life and doing my radio shift. I'll never forget the day that Clara Caratinudo, she's a sweet lady, longtime music director of a very famous Vancouver station, 14C Fun. She was also doing the music for the FM station QMFM. I was hosting a new age kind of jazz radio show at the time, and I was programming it as well. Clara came up to me and she says, well, you're from Atlantic, Canada. You probably know the Barra MacNeils. A few years before they had released Time Frame, but I hadn't heard it. That was their third album. And you know how it is when you're going through tough stuff? You grab onto something, you grab onto a lyric, a voice, a theme, a feel, and it helps you get through the night. Thank you, John Lennon. Time Frame was one of those albums for me. I remember programming it on my new age show, playing Row, 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 and the song Flow Time. Now, Flow Time is beautiful because Lucy McNeil, one of the main vocalists of the Barra MacNeils, sang the tune, and there was just something about the way she sang that song that helped me get through the night. I knew one of these days I'd finally get a chance to talk to her, and it just finally happened about a week ago. Lucy McNeil has released a solo album. It's called Angel's Whisper. And if you love the Barra MacNeils, you will love this record. Here's our chat with one of the most talented vocalists in Canadian history. I love this woman, Lucy McNeil, on Rock History Canada. They were born into music and raised on tradition. From the wind-swept shores of Cape Breton Island came a family unlike any other, the Barra MacNeils. Hailing from a tight-knit family of Sydney Mines, Nova Scotia, the original lineup were made up of 4 siblings, Seamus, Kyle, Stuart, and the youngest, Lucy McNeil, who, by the way, was just 10 years old when she first stepped on stage. While other kids were riding bikes, Lucy was learning to sing Gaelic. The McNeil children weren't your average performers, classically trained but deeply rooted in their Celtic heritage. They began performing together in 1980, juggling homework with harmonies. Because of their young age, their first tours had to wait for school holidays and weekends. But their passion never took a break. The Barra MacNeils brought Cape Breton to the world, and the world listened. All 4 siblings would go on to attend Mount Allison University, each graduating into both academia and a legacy of music. Anyone who's seen the Barra MacNeils in concert knows it's not just a concert. Cliche as it might sound, it was really a celebration. What made the Barra MacNeils different was more than just their bloodlines. On stage, they delivered more than just songs. They offered a journey, Gaelic storytelling, dazzling musicianship, foot-stomping reels, and haunting harmonies that could only come from a family bound by more than tradition. With multiple lead vocalists and instruments ranging from the fiddle, harp, and flute, their performances became renowned as one of the most immersive live experiences in Canadian music. So the Barra MacNeils didn't just play music, they carried a culture. Some of their big albums included Time Frame, including 2 of the biggest songs from the album, My Heart's in the Highlands and Row, Row, Row. That was followed by Closer to Paradise 3 years later, featuring John Sebastian of the Loving Spoonful's Darling Be Home Soon, In the Wink of an Eye, Caledonia, and We Celebrate. Other big records followed like The Question in the mid-90s, 1997's Until Now, and Racket in the Attic in 2000. Their Christmas albums have always been fan favorites and have done incredibly well. Here's a family band that made the world feel just a little more like home.
Just remember the mystical, magical merry machine running through my mind. I'll never forget that song ever.
Oh my God.
That's, what's her name? Susan Butler wrote that, I think, and they play it at everything, I do believe, in Miramichi. Yeah, for all their...
The new album, first album for you. Yeah. Why did it take you so long? Because I've been wanting this for a long time. Why now?
Well, I graduated from Mount A in 91, and I've been performing with the Barra MacNeils ever since, and it's going to be 40 years next year with the Barra MacNeils. And I think I got married a second time. And my husband is, he's very much into music. he's also a nurse, but he's very much into music, and it makes a big difference in a relationship, and if you do music for a living, especially if you're a woman. And so we, when we got married, we put together a 5-number EP, and it was a surprise for all our guests. And it was a lot of fun doing it, and we weren't sure what, we just did 5 numbers. Anyway, everyone was totally surprised. Then the pandemic came, and we ended up spending a lot of time at home and playing music and playing a lot of, we have similar interests and things that we like in music, and traditional singers and traditional bands and songwriters, and started putting a few songs on Facebook, and it really got a great response. Actually, I did a song, it was a David Mallet song, Hope for One and All, which kind of really struck a chord with everyone at that time. And still now, yeah, and we lost poor David in December. And I have to instruct everyone every night to go and look up his back catalog. I say, any David Mallet fans here? And it's just like crickets. And I'm like, come on. I said, you do. You know the garden song. You know the ballad St. Anne's Reel. And there's tons of other ones that I can't think off the top of my head. And they go, oh yeah, I do. And I tell them your homework is to go and look up all the back catalog, because he's just such a prolific songwriter. Yeah. And now he's gone, but he did like my version. He did get to hear that, and he told me that very much, that he really enjoyed my take on his song, and he was very happy.
Hope for One and All.
Yes.
How far back do you go with that song and Decision? I mean, it's a great song for today.
Yeah, it is. Again, yeah, I've been finishing my shows with it, and everyone's singing along, and it's a great way to finish the night, and with hope, and everyone's having a great time, and just to give that, he wrote that back in the 70s, I believe, and it stands that, it's so pertinent today as it was then.
Tell me about that tune. Is that a traditional? Is that one of yours?
Fair and Tender Ladies is a traditional song, yes. And I first heard it from Catherine McKinnon. She was a great singer from Nova Scotia. She had that wonderful album, Voice of an Angel. We grew up, I think a lot of people had it at home. And so I remember listening and loving that song. Big fan of Liam Clancy and Tommy Makeup and a lot of, Dolores Keane, Mary Black, all those traditional singers. Grew up, really admiring them. And Liam Clancy did a great version of Fair and Tender Ladies. But I always loved the song. I'm happy the way my version kind of turned out, because it just kind of took it to another place, and I'm really, really happy how it turned out.
I met Catherine McKinnon at City Hall in Newcastle, Miramichi, back in the 70s, and I was taking a picture, and I got her, I don't know why, I said, smile, say yes, and then she got a hold of me 2 years later and say, with all my pictures now, I always say, yes. Did you know her?
Years ago, like it was before, like my older 3 brothers, they played in some concerts. I think there might have been CBC shows or something, and Catherine McKinnon was in it, and they were guests. They were on the same show. But I did meet her at the John Allen Cameron, when we had a big tribute concert for him in Halifax, and he was there in the audience, and she was there, all the ones from what was it, the Sing Along Jubilee people, and it was a great night, and so happy that John Allen got to be there to be celebrated. It was one smart thing that they that they all did, and didn't wait till after he was gone. But yeah, I met her there, and she's quite a hoot.
Yeah. So Radio Sweethearts was a band, but also a song?
Radio Sweethearts was a band, and 2 of the members of the band, John Miller and John McCusker, I think John McCusker had a waltz. He's a really great fiddle player. He's also producer, tune writer, songwriter, and he wrote the melody. I think he had a waltz, and then John Miller put words to it, And it's called Radio Sweethearts. And I just loved the song. I mean, I heard Kate Rusby sing it. I had a really good Irish friend, Liz Doherty, and she gave me the album, and she said, "I think you'll like this." Anyway, and I loved the song, and was performing it, and then decided we should record it. And so it's not like it's it comes from Scotland, but it's not one of those traditional old Scottish traditional songs. It really, we did a video, and it was a single, and a lot of people, they say, "I love it because it makes me think of my grandparents, or it makes me think of my parents, and I can see them dancing together to the radio." And that was a big thing then, Sundays. I mean, still at home, there's one program in Cape Breton, Donnie Campbell has, it's called Celtic Serenade. And every Sunday from about 5 to 8 o'clock, people sit down and they put the radio on and they listen to his Celtic program. And and it's 50 years, going for 50 years.
Jim, you were ranking about moving to Nashville, and he said, well, you just came back because it was such a different scene. But that's that thing about the East Coast. People, there's no comparing, you're my neighbor, I want to know you kind of thing. Did you find that growing up?
Yeah, we grew up in Sydney Mines. Now, my parents were from a more rural area. My father was born in Grass Cove. It's a pretty small place. And my mother was born in Washabuck. So that's up in the Iona, Victoria County area of Cape Breton. And so if you're in Bedeck, if you know the Alexander Graham Bell Museum in Bedeck, if you look across the water, that is Washabuck. And so my parents got married, moved to Ottawa for a short while, then came back to Cape Breton, bought a house in Sydney Mines. My father said he was like 24, 25 years old, and he is still living there right now. He's going to be 90 next month. My mother passed away, sadly, in 23, but we had a long, great life with her, and she is the main reason we all play music, and she had dementia in her last years, and my heavens, I see the importance of music in people's lives, because I don't know how we would have managed, or Dad, because he did a lot for about 5 years on his own, and then my husband and I, we moved in. It was great to see how it kept her happy. Like, she played the piano. She taught us all. She wasn't a trained musician. She was very musical, learned everything by ear. So
she taught a lot of you?
She taught us tunes. Like, she would jig tunes,
Yeah.
Just kind of like sing them or jig them. And, but she wanted us to take music lessons because she always felt inadequate that way, right? And she played accompaniment for Cape Breton tunes, and she played guitar, and she taught us how to step dance. She was one of the major step dance teachers in Cape Breton and taught many, many, many people. And she was really, I have to say, she was a great teacher. There wasn't too many people that she would ever give up on. She would get a step into you if it killed her, somehow. And she was a great teacher, because if you couldn't learn this way, she would explain it this way. If you couldn't learn that way, she'd explain it this. She could break things down, either if you read music, she could count it out or say the words differently or bang, she just was a great, great teacher.
Tell me about being on the road, and how does it feel?
Last fall we did the Maritimes. So, we kind of got our feet wet doing that, because even though I've been performing music for a long time, it's a different thing altogether to go do my own thing, right? You're the main person, you're doing all the talking and the singing and it's you gotta just believe in yourself and go, but once you get off stage, you're like, oh my God. But you just have to push yourself to do it. And I think my mother would be very proud of me, because she always, I meet people that knew my mother, and I met this one woman after my mother passed away, and she said, Lucy, she used to say to me, she has it, she just has to grab onto it, and which I guess it's difficult with your children if you know they're talented and you want them to use their talents, but not to push them away from it, because sometimes people want something for their children so bad that they just to turn away from it. And she had a special touch, I guess, because we all play, every one of us. is musical. And because sometimes in families you have all athletes or one isn't, or all cooks or I don't know, or all, or somebody isn't musical or somebody isn't, and we are all, it was shared equally among us all. Like I have 5 brothers and I'm the only sister, and we were all, blessed with musical talents. So
How did you discover that you could do this?
I never thought of myself as a singer back in those days. I started violin when I was 9, and my mother taught me step dancing, earlier than that. And I didn't start playing harp till grade 12, and then still minimal because it's just busy, And but I did love singing, and I kept singing, and I sang in the choir. We actually the boys were in the boys' choir. I was in the girls' choir, and so there was always singing. And I guess that's the thing with singing. You just have to keep doing it. You just have to keep singing. It's a muscle, and you have to keep it going. And it's important as you get older to keep singing. Finally, I guess, started to believe what people were saying, and that they liked my voice and they really enjoyed it, and just having confidence. I think I've had 2 daughters. Now they're in their 20s. And I think after you have children, you start caring a little less about some things and just going for it and believing in yourself. And it's like, I can do this. I had 2 kids. I can do this.
Yeah.
So, and it's like life is too short. So you just have to realize, I'm just going to take it day by day, enjoy every day, and see where I land, and that's all. I don't have any great expectations. I just want to enjoy it as I do it, and when I don't enjoy it, I won't do it.
You guys sound like you're having like the time of your life up there.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun. So I'm traveling with my husband. He plays guitar and bouzouki and low whistle. And my youngest brother, Boyd, I managed to drag him along, and he plays fiddle and bouzouki. And I have a very good friend who comes from Newfoundland, Lisa MacArthur, and she came to Cape Breton many years ago. She fell in love with the Cape Breton style of fiddling and dancing. She came across on the ferry to go to a Celine Dion concert. And the Barra MacNeils were opening for Celine Dion in Sydney. And that was the first time she saw us and saw this music that we were doing. Anyway, and she got her father to sign her up for, I think, 8 weeks of lessons at the Gaelic College in St. Anne's in Cape Breton. And that's how it all started. And she became good friends with my mother. So when I'd be away on the road, she spent many times at the house with my parents, and she's such a hoot. She's very funny, as Newfoundlanders are. They have such a great sense of humor, and but she lives in Nova Scotia now for quite a few years, and I was so glad that when I asked her if she would come on the road with me, because she sings great harmonies. She's so intuitive to the inflections that I sing. She's a great fiddler. She's she picks great tunes. I play one selection of tunes I learned from her, and she can step dance as well. She learned from my mother and different people. She would go around to older fiddlers and pick up, the nuances, the ornaments and the bowing styles and things. And she's very, like sometimes you would never know she was from the Conroy Valley in Newfoundland. Like she sounds like a Cape Breton fiddler more than some of them do.
Is she the lady who you were warming up with, the 2 of you together?
Yes. Yeah. She's very fun. We were doing the little vocal, the jigging the tune kind of thing, or the lilting or something. Anyway, yeah, she keeps things light and airy on the road, and she doesn't. She's just great fun, and she seems to be enjoying herself. So that's the main thing, and hopefully she'll continue.
How did you find playing the harp?
How I got into it was Clan MacNeil in Cape Breton. They purchased a harp, and they wanted someone in the MacNeil clan to learn the harp, and they were going to send to a camp in Holton, Maine, and for a week, and with the hopes of teaching. So in my grade 12 year, My parents and my two younger brothers, who were quite young then, uh, we went to Holton, Maine, and we actually stayed in a tent. And it was kind of cold, the end of June. There was this house across the field where it was supposed to be Elizabeth Grania Yates. She's actually granddaughter of William Butler Yeats. She was the harp teacher that had come there in different years, but there was something personal that she couldn't come that year. So Elizabeth Hannon was there, another Irish harp teacher. And so Dad would carry my harp across the field over to this house, and I would have, I don't know, an hour, I think about half an hour or an hour. And all we did were just hand position and technique and doing these little exercises. And there was no tune. I never ever learned a tune. So every day for a week, and I'd have to go back and practice, and that's all the instruction I ever had. So I always felt a little bit inadequate, but I didn't work on it like that for the rest of my life, because I got busy doing other things. But I really did enjoy it. And of course, then when we did the album with Hearts in the Highland, well, we got the harp into that, and it really, put some nice little harp parts together with the accordion, and that worked out great. And then there was a few different times we used a harp, but it's not the easiest thing to travel with, which I'm learning right now. But so for the Barras, it usually comes out at Christmas time, and we use it in the Christmas show, but not in our other shows. And normally because we kind of send it out by truck to BC, and then we bus all the way back home.
Oh.
And so I've had to send it on the plane, and I do have a flight case that a really great Irish friend gave me when she moved to Cape Breton. She said, I won't be needing it anymore, and she gave it to me, and it fit my harp. And but it's always a little extra money to fly it, and you're always worried that it's going to get there safely. And so so when we started working up music and stuff, I started using the harp more. And I remember Mary O'Hara when I was a kid, and her beautiful voice, and she played the harp. It was probably the first person I ever saw. And I remember her saying in an interview, she said, I'm not a great harp player. She said, I'm a very basic harp player. I just play what I need to sing. So I consider myself the same. I don't want to make a part that's so difficult that I can't sing and perform. So you just kind of have to come up with, parts. And I like the album because it's simple. It still sounds very thought about, like the arrangements. I mean, I'm really happy with the arrangements. And my brother Stuart was the producer. And I had the basic arrangements, and he just a couple of chordal things that he helped make smoother. And but I really, really like that. It stayed simple, but it sounds big.
Valley Gardens, beautiful.
Yes. It's one of those songs. And people say, well, did you write? You write, do you have your own stuff? And I said, I wanted my first one to be, like, I have instrumentals that I've written, and I feel very strongly about them. I find I'm very, because I love songs so much, I have to like my song an awful lot to record it. You know what I mean? Like, I know that's the singer-songwriter thing, and everybody records all their songs, but there's so many great songs. There's so many traditional songs that have tested the time, the test of time, and that's why they're so popular, because they just keep coming around. And I just thought I would rather do songs that I really love and have grew up listening to as my first album, and hopefully I will do another one, and I will, I do have some writing, I do, but I have to be more free with it, I guess, start relaxing and just letting people hear it.
Rick Emmett, who told me years ago in the 80s when I first got into radio, Rick Emmett said, because he plays lead in Triumph and he sings.
Yeah.
And you don't know what you don't know when you're young, and no Joe Lunchbucket or Evelyn Everybody music fan thinks about the fact that, unless you have to, that when you're singing and playing an instrument, not only that, if you're singing and playing lead or something like that, how incredibly difficult that is.
It's it can be. And I find the biggest thing is you have to play live. You can practice at home all you want. But to do this show for me, I had to get out there and perform in front of people and get over nerves. And I was really happy because I look happy, I look confident, I sound good. And it's like, I can finally kind of relax because I find you'll do a show and you get a great response. But I find you just have that little feeling of uncertainty inside until you kind of see yourself,
But isn't that a good thing? I mean, I
think it is. I think it is. Yeah, because you're always striving to be better, to be better, to be better.
Yeah.
You don't want to be just, oh, this is good enough. You're always trying to, and I think that's happening every night. Things are working great, and we've got nice little banter on stage, Lisa and I. And whenever there's a dull moment, she certainly fills it.
By the way, what's poutine night? I saw you put up, you're all wearing the same thing. It's New Year's Eve, and I want to have poutine night in my house. What the heck's poutine night?
Well, okay. Well, when you share children with other people, so I have my first marriage. I have two daughters. So we'd always have, so you have your Christmas and his Christmas. And then my husband has a son, so I have a stepson. And so he has his mother. And so you have to be, you have to try to make it work for everyone so everybody gets time. And so I started after Christmas, because you have Christmas Day, or Christmas Eve, and Christmas Day, and Boxing Day, and all these days, and everybody has something scheduled, and you're trying to fit in. And I'm trying not to be one of those crazy mothers that has, well, you have to come here, it's Christmas, and it's like I don't want to be one of those mothers. So I said, well, how about? And I started this, was it 3 or 4 years ago? I can't remember. We'll do a poutine night, and everybody come. And we'll just have poutine, and you don't have to worry about turkey dinners or this or chowders and it's just come, and you can wear your pajamas if you want, and it's just and they like it and they look forward to it, and so the girlfriends and boyfriends, they're welcome to come, and usually that's when I give them a little bag of like a Christmas kind of. It's usually full of fun things. It's like I don't give a big serious present, it's like until you're really in the family, until you're really in the family, I'll keep it to as fun, like some wool socks and some treats and goodies, and and they like it. They like it.
Radio sweethearts. Oh my God! Like, I mean,
did you see the video?
Yes. Oh,
yeah. It's just the song just lends itself so easily to make a video. I have a friend who did set design. She brought she had her father's old radio, and she just did it up really nice. And it was an inn in Cape Breton, Chanterelles, and it's a young German couple that owned the inn, and they were so happy because they had just taken it over from the previous owners, and they wanted us to because it's a great inn, and you can they have a restaurant there too, and then the inn, and the idea is the food is all within a 100 mile radius that they get it. So chanterelles, because they're chanterelle mushrooms and et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, so it was a great day of filming, and it turned out really well. Really, really happy with it.
I love what you did with that. It's just, and you can't, it puts us, I mean, I was going,
Those voices on the album were my daughters.
Are they interested in music? Have they been?
When they were younger, they took lessons and stuff, and they are musical. They are very, my daughter, my oldest daughter has a great voice, stronger than my voice, actually. Yeah, big, she sang in a lot of choirs and stuff, and she, at Christmas time, she'll come out and sing Children's Winter with me. And like, we're in air, she has no nothing to listen to, and I'm like, I don't know how she does it, and she'll just go boom, and its pitch is great, and she's confident, and I couldn't do that at that age, could not at all. But no, they are career women. She's at Mount St. Vincent. She's graduating in October with public relations, and she's doing really well, and she's really enjoying it. And my youngest daughter, who also can sing but is not as willing, she doesn't like to do things publicly, and she plays the fiddle. But they were big into basketball, so more so than music. But they are musical, and they will have it in their life. But she's studying recreational therapy, and recently she's just showing me all these videos, and she said, "Mom, do you know that musicians have a lot more gray matter?" And I said, "Yes, of course we do." I said, "So keep practicing." Because she's dealing with dementia patients. So recreational therapy is dealing with the very young and the older population. And it's a type of therapy, instead of just the issue, it's the whole person. You're dealing with the whole person. Yeah. And there's a lot of it. It's becoming, you see a lot more of recreational therapists besides occupational therapists and all that. And I know my own doctor at home, I think, was getting one into her office. So, and my daughter was pretty happy about that, because she said, if she does that, then more doctors will do that. And and it's just, it helps the whole person, because some people, if they have an injury or something, and it's the depression, it's the mind that you worry about, right? Everything comes to a halt and their whole life changes. So in order to help the physicality of it all, you need to help the mind. And she's found her calling, because she's really, really good with young people, and she's really good with people, and she's very happy. She said, "Mom, I have to thank, even though those years I got with Nana when she had dementia, and I learned so much how to deal with it. And, you just go with it, and you don't correct them, and you don't, you just find the thing that makes them happy, and you continue to do that." And so I made me very happy, because, my mother helped her in her career.
90s, when I was going through that breakup, someone asked me who one of my favorite vocalists was, and I mentioned your name, and the person didn't know who you were, and I went, "Let me go." I was at a party. I said, "Let me go to my car." I had Time Frame in there, and I played it, and you know what? And it's a testament to you and how you sing in the band. I played it at this party, and everybody stopped. Played Flow Time, and everyone stopped. Everybody. And I remember going, there you go. If I ever talk to her someday, I have to tell her.
We had a video for that, and we don't have a copy of it anywhere.
Really?
Can't find it. That was our first video, I think, and it had a very special lady. Her name was Leona MacNeils. She was not related, but we were very close friends with their family, and she was in it as the older woman, and then I was the middle, and then Bria McDonald was her granddaughter, and she was in it. And it's I know, and we can't seem to find it anyway.
Let's send it in the ether. Maybe someone has a copy.
Yeah, if someone has a copy, put it out there.
That melted me when I heard that song, because you have such an angelic, beautiful voice that really speaks to me. The thing is, everyone's had those songs where their shoulders lower and the tongue falls to the bottom of their mouth, and then they start going, I can escape my own grief. It's like being scared as a kid in a room, and then you find yourself, you're goofing off in your mind. You go, "Oh, I haven't been scared for 5 minutes. What happened?" That song did that for me.
Oh, great.
And Dion, did you meet her when you were opening for her?
We did, but we actually, the Barras were in Jamaica, doing jamming in Jamaica at the time. Yeah, we were on a boat, we're playing barns and singing and playing, and it was, they were taping it, of course, and we got word, because that's when we were with the record company, and the record company got a hold of us and said we were opening for Celine Dion. So we had to leave Jamaica and go straight to Toronto in the wintertime, and none of us had our warm coats and all the stuff that we need, and a lot of extra gear and stuff. So we had to go straight to Toronto, and and get ready to do the tour. And so we did. It was the O'Keefe Center then. There was 3 nights there, and then we went east and did all the maritime dates with her. But we stayed out of the way because, you know, we're a band and we don't want to make any problems. So we just did everything we were told, be where you're supposed to be, do what you're supposed to do. We never asked to meet or anything. We just didn't want to. And so by the end, we finished off in St. John, New Brunswick, and her assistant came to our dressing rooms and said, Celine would really like to meet you before you guys go home. And so she brought us up to her dressing room, and she had her big rollers in her hair, and her makeup was all done, but she had her big rollers in, and she had a robe on. And I remember there was like a little plate of egg salad sandwiches with saran wrap over it. And she was she was so down to earth. And she was talking about, showing us, demonstrating, you know, when you have the hair dryer and you have the little plastic hose and the thing, and she was you put this on, and then, you know, and she was, and of course,
like your aunt, like you're talking to your aunt.
Yes, and we were doing Chase the Man in that run, right? Chase the Man, and I loved that song, Chase the Man, Chase the Man. She loved that song. So I'm singing it back here every night when you sing that, and but and we didn't get a picture with her. You know, it's the time before selfies and all that stuff. Plus, she wasn't ready. I mean, we weren't going to ask her for a picture with rollers in her hair and everything. But it was she was incredibly professional. Just, you know, that was so kind of her because we weren't going to ask because we just didn't want to get kicked off the tour, right? We just wanted to do it. So, but then she came and asked to meet us, and it was really, really nice. She was a great person.
Who was the most talented overall musician you've ever worked with?
My brothers are pretty talented. Stuart is, like, he's not, in singer-songwriter worlds, he's not one of the, you know, the better known ones at home anyway. But he's more than just a singer-songwriter. He is an arranger. He's you know, he's done some symphony arrangements for when we play with symphonies. His scope of thinking is much more complicated than my mind. Like when we've done stuff in the past, Stuart has an idea, and like what's the song? Dance With Me Daily. That was Stuart's song. So my first baby was laying on the floor when we were recording that album. We were doing, you know, the rough stuff at the beginning, and I loved the melody, but he never finished it, and I said, well, you have to finish that, like, because I think in my ears, I know I'm closer to what people like. Does that make any sense? I think I know. I feel, because I have to feel the song, and I have to, you know, and it has to have a meaning, and I have to be able to attach myself to it to want to sing it, right? And anyway, that is one of my favorite songs, Dance With Me Daily. It really is. And I love singing it. And he wrote it to finish that one. Said, I really like this one. You should finish it. And then, of course, when you're doing, I don't say too much unless I don't agree, you know. So, like, and that doesn't happen too often because there's enough people discussing stuff. So you just wait. And if your thing doesn't get on the table, well, then you speak up. But if what you're going to say is already going to been thrown in there, there's no need to, you know, make the air have one more voice in it. So I think that's why I enjoyed doing my own project, because doing Barra MacNeils stuff all these years, it's everybody. We all have a voice, and it takes longer. Everything takes longer. So when you're doing the mixing, it's like everything is everybody wants to hear their thing, and everybody, you know, and it takes a long time, right? But because we are families, sometimes we just cut to the chase, and people that aren't related to us that kind of are there to work with us sometimes might think we're pretty harsh with each other, but you know, but we don't mince words, and we get over it really quickly.
Yeah.
Because in the end, it's like, well, that you're right, because that's better, you know. And I know Stuart sometimes has to, who he produced my album, but he does a lot of the work for the Barra stuff too, and arrangements, and he'll be like, okay, well, this is how play this piano part, and you'll have them, because they're both piano players, they're going to go, you know, oh, I can do this. You don't have to tell me what to do, you know? And it's like, well, no, I don't. But if you don't have a part, here's a part, right? And then they'll take the part and might make a slight variation here or something. But it's, I learned when I was going to do this with Stuart, I was going to really listen. You know, I'll take, I'm not going to react. I'm just going to listen to what he has to say. But I did have a lot of stuff worked up before I went in. Like most of the parts and things that I wanted to do in the songs were done. And there was only one song that didn't have anything done before I went in, and that was Angel's Whisper. And we spent one whole day working on it, and it wasn't what I envisioned. And we had to scrap it and start again the next. So then I had to go home, I had to think about it. How do I put the cross the way, you know, if somebody doesn't hear a song like you hear it, right? You have to figure out, okay, I have to. So then the next day we went in and had to bang out like something simpler. Finally, things started catching on and it started to make shape, and it's, anyway, I love the track.
John's guitarist, Caleb Quay, he played in the early albums and then played for 2 albums, Rock of the Westies and Blue Moves in the mid-'70s. He told me something. He worked with Liza Minnelli, and he says he wasn't know what to expect, Liza Minnelli. So he comes up and he said, what do you want on this song? He only played with one album of hers. And she started interpretive dancing in the middle of the studio. And he goes, no, but what do you want me to, what do you have in mind? And she goes, and that was the only way Liza Minnelli, and I can understand that, could do that. When the guy who did Jungle Land, the symphonic stuff on Bruce Springsteen's Jungle Land, I just talked to him, Charlie Colella, he does the symphonic stuff. So he comes up to Bruce Springsteen, and this is Springsteen's, I think, 3rd or 4th album, Born to Run. And he says, what do you want on this? And Springsteen comes up to him and he goes, it's in his head, but sometimes it's just a bunch of feelings, and Charlie could understand. He did this big symphonic thing based on Springsteen basically saying nothing.
Yeah, and sometimes less is more, and that this whole album, that's what I find. Less is more. It feels big to me, even though there's not tremendous amounts of things on it.
Barra MacNeils, what are you guys doing something for the 40th?
We're looking at kind of, some sort of celebratory kind of thing that woohoo, we're still alive, we're still kicking, and
please,
and sort of like maybe we're looking at all our old scrapbook stuff and maybe putting some sort of collector's little album or a book type of thing, you know, with a lot of tidbits of information and old things that we played and things we forget about, right? There's so much that you forget that you do over the years, and then all of a sudden you're going through boxes of stuff, and oh my God, remember this? Oh my God, remember this? You know, and this happened there, and so yeah, we're working on it, definitely.
This has been a lot of fun, Lucy. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and take good care of yourself. And thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. This has been a real pleasure talking to you. So thanks so much.
Take care.